All right. Thank you, everybody. This is the December 2025 installment of the Microsoft Data Platform Continuity Virtual Group. With me today, old friend, absolute guru, Thomas Grohser, TG. We're going to be talking more on the series that we have on the SQL Server Truncated Icosahedron table. And today we're going to be talking about external events. And this one is near and dear to me since I live in Tornado Alley. The photo on the meetup site, I took that from my driveway. That was an F1 tornado that was on the ground coming towards my house. And then thankfully it decided to lift, but it was still spinning directly above my house. So when it was directly above me, I'm outside with my phone going, please don't drop, please don't drop, please don't drop. And with
Yep.
that, go for it.
Okay. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm Thomas, and I will be talking about my experience over the last 30 years with dealing with things that are outside of my control. Because what I learned pretty quickly and early in my career, even if I run the best database team in the world, I do not have control of what happens outside the team. I have a little bit of control or some control with other teams in the same company, and you will have too. If your network team decides to make maintenance of their switches right while you do your backups or so, you have the chance of coordinating and doing this. But then it might be a different company that you depend on. Your data center might decide, hey, it's a good idea to drop a wrench in the UPS and shorten the batteries out or something. So it's external companies. You still have control with them because they normally let you know when they're doing maintenance or so. So you're getting information about that, but not all the time. And then there's the next ring, if you want to do this, where it's just someone else that, without even knowing or knowing that you exist, messes with your life because someone is renting a Caterpillar and is cutting into the power lines, or a big truck is hitting a power pole and causing an issue or something. So you have very little control over that. You still have some if you're planning ahead or so, but thing is, and then of course there's the highest level of things that can happen externally where you have absolutely zero control over it. And it is if Mother Nature decides to play with you and sends you an F1 tornado to to mess with your happiness. And it's a lot. And as I wrote in the abstract, it's not just things that can go bad that might make your ability to keep running the way you should be running. Thing is, it can also be good things. Events like thing is, I have a friend that works at Ticketmaster, and every time a certain pop star called Taylor Swift decides to drop a new concert tour or something, the tickets they are flipping out because that means about 10% of the planet are hitting their website at the same time. And even if their hardware can deal with it, their ISP might decide that's a denial of service attack and cut them off or something. Yeah. So things can happen, and you have to be prepared for it. Or in again, Taylor Swift in Vienna, where I live right now, her concerts were canceled. And suddenly 60,000 Swiftie fans decided, let's go into downtown Vienna and celebrate that, or th uh, that the concert is not happening, but they were not celebrating, but drowning their sorrow in alcohol that they can consume here as 18-year-olds. Uh, and that caused massive traffic jams because nobody was expecting these people at this time, since that happened only hours before the actual concert. So they were already supposed to be in a certain part of the city with all the police and everybody there, and then they redirected. So again, it's just amazing what can happen and how you can prepare yourself for making sure that stuff keeps running. Yeah. I mean, a super simple example is you have two data centers. One is your primary one, the other one is for DR. Your primary data center tells you, hey, we are planning a large maintenance on our power distribution system or something, which basically translate into non-marketing speech as we probably going to cut the power to your servers by accident next week. Yeah, to ensure that everything is in a much better state, what you should do is you should do a DR test and run for 1 week in the other data center while they're doing their maintenance. Yeah. If they don't mess it up, great, no harm. But if they mess it up, you already prevented things because believe me, a planned failover always works way better than an unplanned one. Yeah. You can decide at which point in time. So probably at a time where you're not doing primary business, or 3 a.m. in the morning because the data center thought it's a good idea to do the maintenance at 3 a.m. so they don't disturb too many people. But then everybody's woken up and has to deal with that. So, but that's a simple example. But that also, so what I learned over the years is that I need to have a feed as the decision maker, what we're doing with our environment, where I see what are the events, because even if you try, you cannot watch everything. But if you have certain teams or something in the company that can provide you with information, so like the data center team will give you the information, hey, the data center is planning to do this. Or the network team will tell you, hey, the ISP is gonna do maintenance on our uplink to the internet. So don't expect that to work on this day. So you get these informations. Yeah. For all that kind of business related, again, the business team can tell you, hey, we are launching this new product. And when we are launching it, we're hitting a major TV ad campaign at the same time. So we are expecting people to do a lot, or we are offering to be like thing Black Friday deals, yeah, something like this. Let them know what's going on, yeah, as thing gather the information what is happening so you can prepare for the things. The other ones watching the weather, yeah. If there's a snowstorm coming, if there's a tornado, hurricane, typhoon, depending where you live in the world, uh, is yeah, it's things. If you know that, and usually hurricanes or something these days, you know at least a week or two in advance, put that on your calendar and make sure that if the cone of uncertainty where they come in somehow hits some of your office buildings, your data center buildings, or the region where your cloud stuff is. Because all the cloud providers have the same problem. If a hurricane cuts, takes off the roof of the data center, it's the same. They're not having magic. They're using the same components that you would use in your own data center. So
Yeah.
whatever can happen to you will happen to them. It just affects much more people from one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Cloud is not
Uh,
magic. It's just somebody else's data center.
oh yeah. And they try to run it as cheap as possible. So yeah. So this is the overview. There's a lot of different things that can happen. And then you have to make the decisions. How do you react to them? And in many cases, it could be just, okay, we know it's gonna there's a possibility, but we're not gonna do anything. We are just prepared. We know that if this night something hits us, it's most likely that the hurricane knocked out the power or something, and everything will be back a couple of hours later or not. Yeah. But sometimes it's good enough to just know that it happens so that people don't panic. And if you know that your data center is going to lose power because they're going to turn it off because they have to do something in the power distribution system or something, you know it's happening. Same with internet connectivity or so, yeah. And you might not have to do anything. Everything might just keep going the way it is.
Yeah, just the
Or the
act of
same with
knowing.
big business
Okay.
events. Yeah, it's you might not be able to do something. Yeah, I once worked in a company that for the first time they were offering something for the World Cup, and they were panicking. So instead of having they had like 30 web servers serving up their web page before. And since they were basically it was the first soccer World Cup during their existence, they decided to add 270 more to go from 30 to 300, which was a very bad decision. First of all, there is no existing session state server that can handle more than 64 clients, except for one. SQL Server. You can run session state through SQL Server. So it's basically you have a database, and every time the session writes or reads, it writes a blob and reads a blob from a SQL database, which is not the most efficient way of using SQL Server. But they didn't know that. So they just used the regular session state server they had. The problem is they can only do 64 web servers at a time, and none of the commercial ones can do more. It's hilarious. The only one is SQL Server, which luckily was an option to use. The problem is we had only like 48 hours to come up with a new SQL Server that could handle the load of writing 30,000 9 kilobyte binary objects per second into the database. So tip number one, run it in TempDB. It writes much faster than the regular one. And the other one was at the time, SSDs did not exist, but we found a driver to create a RAM disk because we didn't need a large database. It was just to read and write from it so fast. The
Yeah.
problem with that was that the RAM disk needed to run on the same CPU as the log writer thread from SQL Server. And the only way to do that was to have an asymmetric memory configuration in the server. So the problem is we knew which RAM stick in the server would be assigned to which core to handle. Uh, the problem is you can't choose that, except with one trick. You put in like you have today you would have like 24 sticks that you can put in. You put in 23 8 GB sticks and one 64 gig stick. And then you allocate your RAM disk like 60 gigabytes in size, which can only go into one of the modules. This is the only one that has a continuous block in the right size. And if you know that, then you assign the log writer to exactly that CPU core, and then your log writes never leave the L1 cache in the process, and you can actually do that. It sounds easy. Doing all that in 48 hours is a little bit of a thing, but this is how an internal planning went wrong. And the thing is, and the hilarious output is during the World Soccer Cup, the website had the lowest traffic of all time. Very, very simple explanation. What nobody thought about is normally there's like 100 countries that run at least 3 leagues each. So you have 300 leagues of about 16 teams that play 2 or 3 times a week. That's a lot of games. During the World Soccer Cup, for 1 month, there's 64 games with a total of like 8 games in one day at a time, which for the whole system was handled like nothing. 8 games is what normally runs like in 5 minutes at the same time, and here it was spread out over a whole day. So they did all this for nothing. But yeah, so sometimes external events or internal events that are not in the control of the DBA team, but I call them external, uh, might backfire if you do too much or you go into the wrong direction. Yeah. But keeping as much as possible into the idea of being prepared is thing. So what I did over the years, all kinds of different events. I created myself a little matrix of okay, what's the likelihood of this actually happening? Is and what is the best ideas to do? Yeah. What I still to this day do all the time is if anything is maintained in a data center or on the network, I move as far away as possible as I can, like a week before, let them do, and then a week later come back. But that is only possible because the way I usually design the environments is that it doesn't matter in which data center you run. I don't have a primary in the DR data center. I have a data center that is primary today, and I have another one that is can be primary at any point in time. I do this also with patching. Every time I patch, I fail over into the other data center and then run till I patch the next time in the other data center. Yeah. I understand that it's not always possible because geography might not allow that, or you might have not the money to run both data centers at the same capacity. I had companies where like we for every 3 servers in the primary data center, we had 1 server in the DR side, and it was clear that if we have to go to DR, certain services will not be available. I cannot run a whole month with reduced services. That's not a possibility. Yeah? Um, but it's again, you have to tweak it to what is in your environment. You cannot just there's no cookie cutter. Yeah, because first of all, you might be in a business where there is no insane events like Taylor Swift concerts, soccer World Cups, Super Bowl, all these special events, Star Wars premieres, everything where suddenly there's way more business than you would normally affect. Yeah. You might, I mean, another one where I know someone who was affected by this is they always had peak traffic on January 2nd. It's if you do job search sites, the New Year's resolution, I need a better job. They have about 3 to 5x the traffic on January 2nd than they have the rest of the year. It's just hilarious that so many people are looking for a better job after New Year's and try to cash in the New Year's resolution. It quickly dies down after that, but they have to run the system. Or another one that only does business once a year is HR Block or any other accountant thing that does the tax returns in the US. Because they basically have business for like 1 or 2 months a year. The rest of the year they can run like on a single machine, tiny somewhere. But for these 2 days, they have to, for this month or so, they have to scale up massively. And this is a place where the cloud works great. You have some small system all over the year, and then once a year you buy more things. Just make sure that you actually have the resources. So if you are an accounting firm, make sure that your cloud provider is not hosting your big competition in the same data center as you, because then you both need more resources. And you can trust me, the cloud does not have infinite resources.
Oh yeah.
I don't
Even
know, but I see a lot of these error messages coming back from all the cloud providers that says that the resources are not available right now.
yep. Even the
My
local
favorite is
providers.
AWS has this machine with like 24 gigantic hard drives in a server. You can usually get like 1 or 2. If you request like 100 of them, no, not happening.
Even the local providers. So I live in Tornado Alley. There was a data center group, really right up the road here, really good folks. They had a really interesting service. If you put your infrastructure in their colo, even if they
Yeah.
managed it or you managed it, and a natural disaster hit, they had a room full of workstations where you could bring your people in and park them at a computer, and in 5 or 10 minutes, they would have that computer connected to your network segment in their colo. It was fantastic
Mhm. Yeah.
until a tornado hit town. And
So,
then everybody swarmed into it and they had nowhere near enough seats.
yeah, I don't know that system, but every company I worked for, we had always an office, a small office on top of the data centers, which had like 50, 60 seats. And then within the company, we had defined um, staff that was mission critical or whatever. And once a year, uh, you got uh, the SMS, this is a test, but still tomorrow you're working from the DR side. And that was basically you go to the data center, go upstairs, and find your seat where you had a very tiny little desk, and your workstation. And yeah, then you wrote down all day what was not working so you could fix it for the real time. No, this were once a year to
Yeah,
figure out what was not there or what else needs to be installed or stuff like this. Or in my case, my number one feedback was um, that we need noise canceling headphones. And the reason was because right behind our desk, so the DBAs had one seat in that spare or in the extra office. Right behind us was reception. And every time a
oh,
phone call came in, the nice receptionist in her really strong voice said the same greetings to everybody on the phone. Let me put it this way. The first 5 times it's funny. The next time, 5 times it's annoying. After that, yeah, but it's not her fault. It's her job. Yeah,
yeah,
but yeah, noise canceling headphones, problem solved. Yeah.
yeah, work environment.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, because if you have to focus on fixing a database and someone or every 10 seconds, welcome, blah, blah, blah company, how can I help you? Welcome, blah, blah, blah company, how can I help you? Is annoying. Yeah. So these are the things that you need to have prepared, which have nothing to do with your databases. But if you have them checked off or tested out, you can focus on the actual problem. Yeah, because
yeah,
there will be problems. If there is an actual, like, if you have to go to that place for real, that means a lot of things are not working. And these can be very serious. I mean, once Mother Nature starts messing around with network cables, fiber optic lines, and power lines, it's usually ugly and can take days or weeks. And one thing, for example, that I always ask the data centers, okay, how many days of diesel do you carry for how many days? And okay, and where's the contract that you get more after that? And how will they make it through the road that does not exist anymore?
hmm,
Do they have helicopters that will bring the diesel in, or what's your plan? Do you have one?
yeah.
And it's absolutely fine if they don't. Yeah.
As long
You
as it's
just need to
known.
know
Yep.
because that means the moment you run in that data center and it's clear that they're not going to fix it in the next week, you have to start working on getting everything out of there before they turn off the power because they run out of fuel.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was a
So,
scenario that I had to deal with a long, long, long time ago. So you all, I'm sure, remember if you're in the US, you remembered Hurricane Katrina. There was a
oh yeah.
company that a friend of mine worked at the time. Their CEO loved the beach. So their primary data center was in Miami, Florida. No big deal. They had DR and they had a second DR.
Yeah.
The primary DR, Galveston,
They got
Texas.
free water cooling.
Yep, Galveston, Texas. The second DR, New Orleans. So DR, primary site went down. They failed over to New Orleans. New Orleans went down, and then Houston or Galveston went down about 2 hours later. So dead, dead, dead.
Mm. Yeah,
Poor planning.
yeah, no, it's planning for disasters and all that is you have to get yourself into a mindset of like almost like a crazy person that like is afraid of everything.
I
Uh,
wouldn't say crazy person. I would say
you know,
statistical
this
part.
conspiracy people that everything will go wrong and the world is going to end and something, and then go from there and again figure out does it even make sense? Yeah.
Hmm,
So, for example, if you trade on NASDAQ and you're in the same data center as the NASDAQ core switch to exchange trades, okay, if that thing is down, it's down. So nobody else is trading, so your trading system doesn't need to run either. Uh, but if you're not in that data center, if you're like across the street because you can't afford the high extra premium pricing of that data center, um, you might not be affected or affected in a different way. And
yeah.
it's
It's
so
it's it's all what's a non-zero chance of taking this stuff down, and even the most improbable things. And this was a decade ago, roughly. A company that we worked with, they had a major disaster. Nobody could get to their headquarters, and no work from home at that point. Nobody had laptops. Nobody had remote access.
yeah.
The scenario was fascinating. It was a train derailment. No big deal, right? Except the train was carrying nuclear waste. So they cordoned off a 5 mile perimeter around the accident site, which included their headquarters, which also had their data center in it. So the building was up, the systems were fine. They could get to the website, but only a few people had remote access. So everybody in IT were driving around to Best Buys and Office Depots and buying any laptop that they could. And then they promptly crashed their firewall because too many people were connected to the VPN.
Yeah, no, it's thing is, I mean, we all remember COVID when we started working from home. Yeah. Yes, I was a person who was on call all the time, so I was used to work from home. Yeah, and I had everything set up and everything else. But about 1,000 other people in working in the company did not. Because their job was they didn't get called at 3 a.m. in the morning if something didn't work. Their job was, and suddenly they had to get equipment. And the same thing, yeah. Uh, you suddenly, yeah. I mean, depending, and it's not that easy. If you call an ISP and says, I need 1,000 DSL lines to my employees next week, they would say, great. We can give you like 50 or something, and then every other week another 50 or something for the next year. The problem was you were not the only one calling them. Every other company was calling them as well. Yeah.
Yep.
So these are, but these are events that you you still have usually enough time. I know my company sent us home like a week before it really hit the US. They were like, okay, let's see if we can get everything running from home before we actually cannot get in the office anymore because they were like monitoring what other countries did
Yeah.
and decided, hey, let's be ahead of the whole thing. And that brings us to the what types of preparations can and should you do? Yeah. My thing is, again, there's one. Let's do nothing. It's good enough that we know it's happening. The next level that is, I call it heightened on-call coverage. So normally the agreement with people on call is if you get a page, within 15 minutes, you must be logged in and start working on the problem. Yeah. If I say, okay, we have this event coming, like some bad weather or something, I want you to be online. You don't have to sit in front of the computer, but stay logged in lock your computer so that if something happens, you are there within, instead of 15 minutes, within like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah, from the page. Yeah? So even worst case scenario, you're just in the bathroom, you get the page there, you can finish your business and then help everybody. Yeah. But it's the thing is, yeah? So this is the thing is, and usually people have no problem with doing that. Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit more on your next power bill, but if you're on call, you're usually getting paid nicely, so shouldn't kill you. Yeah. The next one, if that seems not to be enough, we had heightened on-site coverage. So, okay, whoever is on call, instead of doing it from home, you're basically working a shift in the office at night that day. Yeah. That's not something you can sustain over a long period of time unless you have a team that is large enough to do that. But for like 2 or 3 days, you will be able to find some way of a schedule or nothing. Yeah? You can be very creative. Most companies, for example, have now rooms for medical emergencies and other stuff where there's a bed or something in it. So that can even be used. Or if you're clever as a company, you empty out one meeting room and put a couple of bunk beds in, like in a hospital where the doctors have a place where they can rest. Yeah. It's just the difference between VPN in and firewall has to handle the load. No, you are literally thing is this is especially very helpful in companies where they are like in a building and the data center is in the same building. Then this is a really helpful way of making sure someone is there. Yeah, because worst case scenario, you can put the accountant that had to get the tax report out there. You can sit him on a chair in the data center floor right next to the data warehouse server and connect him with keyboard and thing there so to get the data out there if everything else doesn't work. Yeah. So you can be creative in this way. Yeah. Another thing that I see a lot happening is that the company does code freeze. We're not rolling out anything new. We're not doing any changes. This is more in the case when you expect extra traffic. Yeah. So I worked once for a healthcare company. So 1 week before open enrollment started, yeah, you got it in. It's great. You didn't get it in. It has to wait till open enrollment phase is over. We need to be ready. There's no changes there. Or with
Yeah, or seasonal activity. We've got one right
yeah,
now. If you
end
buy
of
a home,
year
yeah, and it's
reporting.
end of year, end of fiscal quarter. It's dealing with real estate transactions. So yeah, there's no code change or there's no
Yeah.
any changes at all from about the
Mhm.
beginning of October to the beginning of February every single year. The only thing that they would allow to change is if there's a 0-day security vulnerability that they need to patch for. Otherwise,
Yeah.
you wait.
And this is the next thing in my little notes that I have. It says, yeah, you need to, if you do code freeze, you need to have an exception
Yep.
process. You need to know, have a way to, because if you have an error that needs to be fixed, you need to have a process to get that in. Yeah. And it's much better to think about who has to approve it, how you do it, uh, upfront than to start discussing this when you need to do it, because that usually, if something is that important, it's usually also time critical. Yeah. So you don't have time. So you need an exception process ready to be there. Yeah.
Tested, tried,
Uh,
and true at that point.
yeah. The next one we already kind of talked about is increase capacity, compute storage, whatever you need more. If you're expecting more business, you can ramp up your environment. That's a little bit harder if you're in-house, but even in-house, you could, if you're running on VMs, you can beef up a couple of VMs and then scale down others, or isolate machines on dedicated servers where there's no over provisioning, stuff like this. You can again be creative with what you have.
Yeah, or hybrid
Um,
cloud.
yeah. Another one is reschedule planned activities that you have. if you know that there's a big chance that your environment will go down this weekend, let's not do index maintenance and backups and something this. Let's do them on Friday instead of Saturday or something. If you know this, there's planned maintenance, let's not do some large operations at that time that if they get disrupted, cause a lot of issues. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to
Uh,
take a 2-second tangent here. You got to not work in a silo. There are a lot of comments made already simply about, you know, business this, other teams that. Don't work in a silo,
yeah.
everybody. It's insanely tough in a lot of these big shops. Everybody's got this regimented belief that you can't talk to people from other teams. But if
No.
you get to know them, they'll let you know when planned events are coming that you may not get through the normal chain of command. You have
Yeah.
to understand how to do
You,
this.
you can't go through the pyramid.
Yeah.
Like the the DBA team lead and the team lead from the data center team and the server operating system team and the network guy and the security guy and everybody else. They should have at least once a week
Yeah.
and go to lunch together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to lunch together and discuss what's up on your agenda for the next week, or what are you planning on major changes, or do you in your area see something? Like the network team is probably going to be informed by the ISP if they do something. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not going to call the DBA team. They don't even know we exist and the other way around. Yeah. We take
Yeah.
it for granted. Or the data center team is going to know when they're going to mess in the data center because they talk there with the local people. Yeah.
Yeah. Long time ago, I worked at a performing arts center. We had a shared box office, and the organization that I worked with owns the facilities. But there were a lot of other arts organizations that would actually use the box office.
Mhm.
Every month, I went to lunch with the housekeepers and the janitorial and staff maintenance crews. I took the people from the ticketing centers at a lot of these other organizations out to lunch. It's like, when do you have a big on sale coming? When is building maintenance going to occur? When is some additional construction for some of the unfinished space going to be in case somebody
Mhm.
needs to cut power or cut it by accident? When's literally a semi truck getting backed into the loading bay
Mhm.
in case they hit something?
Yeah.
All of these
And
different things. And I learned a lot. I learned a ton of information that you never got by
yeah,
just, going from the top.
invite facilities because
Yeah.
they're talking to the building managers
Yeah.
all the time. They know, yeah, and it might also be the exact opposite. Yeah, you are planning on having like a big maintenance or something with like six people in the office on the weekend,
Yeah.
and facilities knows that this weekend they're gonna do repairs on the plumbing, and there will be no toilets available.
Yeah, or we had one actually like that. We were planning on doing a big, take a bunch of stuff down on a Sunday morning. Turns out they were having a board member meeting that morning, so all the IT stuff had to be up and running. We found out about it the night before, so we had to go and scramble and reschedule all kinds of things just to make sure that everything is up. Because when you have
Or
billionaires in the building, you don't want to disappoint them.
or important clients are visiting.
Yeah,
We had that, yeah. It was I remember that one company it was like every 2 or 3 months a client wanted a tour of the office. Yeah. Yeah. The day before, facility told everybody, okay, before you go home today, clean your desk, make it like look nice and pretty, and tomorrow you cannot come in your sandals and in your shorts.
would
Tomorrow it's business casual. In these buildings and in that one building, it's business formal. Yeah. Uh,
you want a funny one on that? Long time ago, I worked at a market research firm and they dealt with web surveys for different things. That was a team that I worked on. And the head of the team got this phone call from the support crew. And apparently, somebody who had received an invite for a survey was livid. And the support person was like, I'm not going to deal with this. And he sent it over to the head of the software team. And apparently, an 8-character randomly generated password to get into the survey had accidentally called this person a very horrible word, including being case sensitive. And the guy had to assure this person that, like, no, we did not mean this. This is purely randomly generated. I wrote the routine. We're going to make sure that this is right for you. So at that point, we all get a phone call. come to the big meeting room, drop what you're doing, cancel your meetings. And we walk in there and we had to create a naughty word dictionary. So on a wall that was solid whiteboard paint, we had 19 people scribbling anything and everything horrendously dirty so that they could take photos of it and make a word dictionary. This is like 2003.
Yeah.
And then the board is like probably a 25-foot wall.
So
And then the CIO poked his head in the doorway with the board of directors behind him going, "What are you all doing? We're supposed to meet in here."
so you could have made your life easier because you would only have to figure out 8 letter naughty words. Because up to 7 letters, you could have asked the British license plate division because they already did that. So that British cars don't drive around with naughty.
Mm, knowing what I know about what we wrote on that board, there are some Americanisms that they probably didn't cover.
No, but it's so these lists actually exist for exactly these reasons. It's with a password, it's like less critical because it usually should affect only one person or something. But for example, if you have machine names generated, and then yeah. And same with British license plates. I don't know how the process in the US. In Austria, if you want a custom license plate, it's about 2,500 euros for like 10 years or something. And you just go there, ask for it, and if it's not used, they give it to you. And it takes like a week to make the plate. But in the UK, you can't do that. In the
Depends
UK,
on the
they
state
actually
here.
have people that fish out the good ones from the real production line. They produce every letter combination that's not an order word, but then they have people that fish out the good ones, like Music One or ABBA or Magic or something like this, and they give it to Sotheby's to auction them off.
In the
Makes
US,
them
it
a
varies.
fortune.
I bet. In the US, it varies by state. Some of
Yeah,
it is just, I believe it's a small fee,
yeah.
for 3 digits, and then
But
some
yeah, no,
states they filter.
you have. And this is what I like about this meetings here is how you get from one into complete other things that you have to think in your job. Yeah. And you will never do them all. The fun part is if you like 5 years from now, you have to create random passwords. You might remember that and you might, hey, let's ask these guys, hey, can you give me your naughty list? Because I don't want to.
I still remember that to this day, and it's been
Oh, yeah.
23, 22
Mhm.
years.
Yeah. Coming back to our actual topic. So the last one we talked about were reschedule maintenance and other tasks, but you might also consider rescheduling business processes to other times. If you know that this Friday they're gonna do the maintenance, let's not do end of week processing on Friday like you do it normally. Inform the whole company, no, we have an issue at this time. We have to do it on Saturday morning or something when the Friday afternoon, Friday night maintenance is over. Because my understanding is all these end of week and something processing, end of month, end of quarter processing, they're usually very time consuming, and if something goes wrong, you have to start at the beginning, because most of them are not built in a way that you can like stop and restart,
Yeah.
which is totally fine. But yeah, that's my thing is, yeah. The next one, if I all this doesn't help, and is the thing is the one we talked the most about already, is the preventative failover. You fail over to another site or to another system. And even if it's just like sometimes you have like HADR in the same data center, you might want to fail over if you know they're gonna mess with that one cabinet where your primary server is. You might want to go to the HA high availability server that is in the other one where they're not messing around. Yeah, I'm not saying that this will always do the thing because I've seen people while maintaining one rack taking out another one by like shortening things they shouldn't short,
Yeah.
and make the whole power distribution unit go up in flames. Um, can happen. It's amazing how metal melts when electricity goes through it in a way it should not. Thing is. And another one that might be counterintuitive but might help is if you can't preventative failover, you might consider shutting down. Because it's usually much better to not run when you have an outage than to run. And again, everything that you can do in a controlled way is much better than when the power is suddenly gone. Yeah, if you shut your machines down cleanly, there is a much, much higher chance that they will come up again than when the power goes out. And take this from someone who actually didn't study computer science. I have a degree in electrical engineering, and data centers I work with and many suppliers that deliver us solutions for storage and other things and hardware. They really hate me for that because I insist on an actual power outage uh, test. And yeah, it usually doesn't go well. Let's put it this way. The problem I have is in most environments, the DR tests. This is my pet peeve that I have, the fake DR tests. It's like, first of all, we announce them like 3 weeks in advance. Yeah, that's not how it normally goes. Yeah. I would understand if two or three people know 3 weeks in advance, but the actual test is announced like a minute before it happens, because that's where you actually test how this works. But okay, given that, it's still the same when the DR test is, we're cutting the network between the data centers or something. Like we turn off the router or change. Like, this is not a DR test. This is not what happens. Yeah. Because what I've learned is most larger systems have more than one power supply. And that means that the power within that system doesn't die everywhere in the same time. So your CPU might still have power, but your hard drive might not, or the other way around. And if that happens in a storage system, things don't go really well.
Nope, that's
So
game over.
yeah. And the second one is a lot of systems have a problem when the power comes back up. Yeah. I'm not saying everybody, but I've seen power supplies smoking after the power came back up. Because one other thing is what happens if you have thousands of devices that are connected to the power grid and everything comes back up. I don't know in your area, but my electricity provider here in Vienna, when you sign up with them, they send you a guide how to behave when you have a power outage. And one of the things they tell you in if you have a power outage, don't panic, find a little flashlight, make sure everything is safe and thing is, then turn off every device that you can turn off and unplug everything you can't turn off. And once the power is back, turn them back on so that not hundreds of devices are powering up at the same time, because power has these very weird behavior sometimes that it creates spikes, which if you have a device that's designed for 120 volts, and suddenly they get like 150, nothing might happen. But if they get like 200, 300, thing is, in Europe, it's much more dangerous because we get power delivery at 380 volts and 240 volts in most commercial sites. Uh, if that starts spiking, six, 700 is not out of the question volts. And that is usually already starting to become an issue with isolation, because isolation only has to go to like 1,000. And if something happened a little bit, it might be less than that. Yeah. So
Oof.
again, things you have to be prepared for. So shutting down stuff might be not the worst option that you take. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
example
again,
this.
you're like, okay, we know we have like in where you live, there's a tornado warning. In the next half hour, a tornado is coming through and it's gonna take like half an hour to go through the city. Okay, you shut down your system, you wait for that thing to go bye-bye,
Yeah,
and once it's gone, you power everything back up. Yeah.
yeah,
If there's an actual outage afterwards, you are exactly where you would be without, but you know that you shut down everything clean.
yeah.
And a clean shutdown SQL Server comes up way faster than one, sorry,
Oh yeah.
that one that got cut off the power. Yeah.
Yeah, a micro example of this is I live in an area with pretty interesting weather. If you throw a dart at the U.S. dead center, uh, we had predicted 50 to 70 mile an hour straight line winds and wind gusts last night. This area that I'm in is notorious for brownouts, where we don't get a lot of blackouts, but we get a lot of power fluctuations. So instead of spending all night waking up with UPSs beeping because of brownouts, I just shut three-quarters of my house down.
Yeah.
Test lab, everything, every bit of electronics we had all shut down, turned off, unplugged, UPS is turned off. And I think I
Yeah.
had one machine beep at me at 3 a.m. and that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Another thing is that is on my checklist that I have is if there is an event that might lead to an outage or a failover, I run an extra check if there is any long-running transactions anywhere. Is there a log file that is a couple of gigabytes or terabytes in size because someone did a begin tran, made one update and then went on vacation for 3 weeks, uh, without committing it ever?
I'm assuming that happened. That's a really good one to watch out for.
So the longest one I had was about a 600 gigabyte log file, with very small transactions. We've after like 6 or 7 hours of recovery, we finally figured out how to bring the thing online in a new database, which was hilarious because again, teams should talk.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out, that's a completely temporary database for them,
Oh,
and all they needed was an empty schema. But it took 6 hours to figure that out. Uh,
jeez.
we could have provided that like within 2 minutes.
Oh,
The first thing they do when they start the process is empty out all the tables. So we recovered data inserts for hours. We let it run on the other system. I think it was 6 or 7 days till it finally came back. Yeah.
jeez.
Uh, and yeah, no, it's again, understand your environment, talk to everybody.
Yeah.
It's not always that you need the best thing. So another great one is I worked for a hedge fund and I had my talk with each and every business unit. What are your DR and high availability requirements? And I spoke to all the minor departments first, and I kept the trading department as last because I'm like, okay, uh, they are probably gonna, everything else is gonna be a rounding error, what they have on requirements. And the guy says, yeah, it would be nice if you can give me like a printout of all the transactions that we did like between 10 minutes to half an hour before the outage. If we have that on paper somewhere or in an Excel file or something, that's all I need. And I'm like, come again? Uh, and I'm like, yeah, if my trading guys don't know what they did in the last 10 minutes, they need to be replaced because that is they know what they just traded. What they traded half an hour ago, they have no idea. Everything older than half an hour is already settled. Nobody cares about it anymore. Yeah, I can literally Google my trades uh after like half an hour. Yeah. So who cares? But for like this 10 minutes to half an hour, if we have that somewhere, thing is. Yeah. So starting with that, every 10 minutes, we created an Excel file with the thing is had like three or four of them rolling over, and cheapest HADR solution of all times.
I would not have
And
expected
the
that
other one
response
was,
from them.
yeah, yeah, and we actually only need the trading system between like 3:30 and 4:30 New York time.
End of day batch dumps.
Yeah, because we're not trading all day long because we're trading in the last 5 minutes before close of business, so nobody can figure out what we're doing and do counter trades.
Interesting.
So basically, we needed only 5 minutes, but we wanted to have it up and running. So the trading server was the easiest to maintain of all of them because you basically had like 23 hours a day where you can shut it down and nobody cared. Yep. Again, talk to your peers, and your life might be thing is, yeah. And the hard part is to find the right person because if you would have talked to his manager, that would be a completely different answer. Yeah. Or it could even be if I wouldn't have talked to him, but to one of his peers, I might have gotten a completely different answer. But he understood the business that they're actually doing and adjusted it to that. And again, this
Yeah.
is an example how, from the other side, how they see us as an external provider and got in touch with us to see what we needed. Yeah? But I would have never guessed that. For me, it was like this thing has to run like 24/7 without any outages, and they can accept like 3 milliseconds of data loss or something. Oh, we don't care. We can do all our business on the phone. We've done it for decades. We just enjoy now the computer's doing it for us. But he had guys sitting there that were still years before sitting at the actual trading floor and yelling at each other and hand signaling the trades. Yeah. It's
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 it's it's why to get to know
yeah,
people, get to know people at all levels of the
yeah,
organization because the people on the ground, they know more than the people at the top about how things actually
yeah.
operate. It's fascinating.
So the next list that I have in my cheat sheet is the type of events that I look at. Thing is, we covered a lot of them already while talking to each other, but thing is, yeah. Number one of the list is weather. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you are on the planet, keep an eye on the weather. I mean, we all do it anyway, because when you go to work or go outside or plan your weekend, you look at the weather report anyway. So it's not an extra thing. But the moment you hear something in your area, or just don't look just at your local weather, but also look at the weather where all your data centers and office buildings are. Yeah. Quick list, costs you like 5 minutes a day. And thing is, you might even find some website where you can customize it and have all your cities shown to you. Yeah. So all kinds of storms, rain, snow, floods, extreme heat, extreme cold. Both are not good.
Chance of
Thing
fire,
is, then the next one is geological events, earthquakes, mudslides, avalanches, tsunamis, floods, fire, uh, all things that can affect your data center. And not just your data center. Again, it's your job to monitor the cloud. If you're in the cloud, it's great, but they will give you a month for free, but that doesn't help you if you're offline for several days or hours. And we've all seen that cloud outages are not a rare thing. They happen more often than you think. And it's usually the last two or three took like half a day and were caused by a simple, tiny little thing like a DNS misconfiguration or a DNS fault in some way. Yeah. Just imagine if they have actual physical problems, how long it's going to take them to come back.
the
Yeah.
blast radius on these things are
I
so much bigger
remember
than on-prem.
when I still had my ISP that I ran and thing is, and I got the call from one of my guys, and there's a caterpillar in the data center. What do you mean in the data center? Yeah, his shovel went through the wall. Well, like, okay. how many racks are damaged? We've got lucky, none. He managed to come in between like two rows. Still, there was suddenly a gigantic hole in the wall. And that was not like a wall made out of the sheetrock. No, no, this was like concrete wall that the thing went through.
Load
These
bearing.
caterpillars have a lot of power. I mean,
Yeah.
they're used to tear down buildings. Yeah. If they do it by accident, it has the same effect. So that thing was suddenly there. So, okay, what do we do? How do we close the hole? Because what if it rains tonight or something? Yeah. And also, what if it's in the middle of summer and all the cold air gets out and the hot air comes in? It's all, and trust me, nobody's prepared for that. Yeah. Okay, go to the next hardware store, buy every piece of plywood you can find, uh, buy a big hammer and a gigantic nails and start hammering on the outside and inside the wall without making too much dust to kill the machines with the dust of repairing it. Yeah. I mean, there was already enough dust in the whole thing. The most expensive one was cleaning out the air conditioning system from all the concrete dust that usually clogs the filters in a very, very unhappy way. Yeah, no, it's yeah. The next one on my list is man-made events. It's I call it people or staff concentration events. Concerts, sports games, demonstration, traffic jams, markets, festivals, carnivals, traveling circus comes to town, and so on. Everything that suddenly gets lots of people in one place. You have lots of people in one place, the normal dynamic, how your town or city works, stops. Yeah. My prime example, if you live in Manhattan, close by your data center, and you are 3 avenues away, that means within 15 minutes walking, you can get to your data center. And that's part of your plan. Great. Except if it's the day of the Pride Parade, because the same thing will take you about an hour and a half to get there because 8 avenues are blocked off by the police and they will not let you cross. Doesn't matter how much you yell at them. It might even take longer if you yell a lot of them because they might take you into custody. Yeah. So you have to walk up like 10 blocks till there's a crossing point, and then you have to wait for the parade to like stop for you and get over and then walk down. And you have that at every avenue, and the crossing points are at different streets. So it will take you a while to get to the other side. Yeah. So something that normally takes 15 minutes, there's a nice festival, people are happy, celebrating, and it might still affect your thing. Yeah. And especially if you are in a smaller town where you might still have a data center, something happens. I see it here in Vienna. A bunch of streets are quickly closed because there's some neighborhood festival, someone celebrating something. Yeah, especially on special holidays like 4th of July, Labor Day. There might be some city-approved activities that just shut down things. Yeah. In New
Oh, yeah.
York, you might have during Obama times. I remember when I lived there, when Obama came to town, there was gridlock because they just locked off all the streets when he was driving along. Yeah. And 10 minutes later, everything was back to normal. Yeah. But again, something that might affect things. Yeah.
Yeah, even around here, there's a data center in downtown
Yeah.
Lincoln. Long time ago, I had to go down there to fix something minor.
Yeah.
Turns out there was a football game that had just gotten out. So
Yeah.
there were about 120,000 extra people roaming around downtown. It was
Yeah.
faster for me to get out of my car and walk 3 miles to get there than it was to try to drive down there and find a parking spot.
Yeah. And the same might be with airplane or something. Yeah. Um, be aware what can happen. Yeah. You're planning on doing on-site maintenance in your data center that is in your DR data center that is 800 miles away, so you have to fly there. And then you realize that on that weekend, I don't know, everybody
Blizzard,
got a free ticket to Disneyland or something in town. And yeah.
Blizzard.
Or I worked for a company that celebrated 30 years of existence, and the company owner invited everybody on the same weekend to Disneyland. So we had 17,000 people flying from Chicago to Orlando on the same afternoon. Yeah, that's not something that normally happens. If you are a normal traveler that needs to go there, and you normally know it's going to take you like 3 hours to get there, on that day, it might not be the case. Yeah. Um, yeah, the next one on my list is construction or demolition events. So construction sites, demolition sites, even have it in your contract with your data center that if within like half a mile around the data center construction is happening, they have to inform you that this is happening. Yeah. Or the same with your office building. Have the facilities team check, hey, is there major construction going on? Because if they are digging in the ground, they will hit a cable. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
understand your providers.
yeah,
Especially for construction. A month ago, a site had an outage that we worked with. They had two redundant internet connections. They didn't realize that the second one was leasing connections from the first one, so it was two connections from the same provider.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean, the top tier data centers, they have literally two entry points in the building on two different sides of the building, and then they usually guarantee that they're never within 100 yards of each other for
Good.
till they reach the next distribution point or something. So there's something that you can normally rely on. But again, as you said, two providers might buy each other, and suddenly you had connection from left and right, and suddenly they buy each other. And now, thing is, I know I did it. When I had the ISP, we bought 19 other ISPs. We had not one case where we suddenly took over the DR network from one of our customers, the DR connection, and like optimized them into a single one. Uh, I remember one was calling me and like a larger customer is like, can you give me a list of ISPs you're not gonna buy in the next 2 or 3 years? Because I really like your service, but I need by my thing, I need a second connection from someone else.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
reasonable request.
yeah, I mean, can happen. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we already talked about the business events, marketing events, sales events, competition events could also be. That if one of your competitors does something, because it might just be that like Amazon does their whatever Prime Day or something, and suddenly your website gets more traffic because people before they order double check that they really get a good deal and just verify on your site. Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
Also, very interesting, less or no business events. Is something happening that causes your business to drop?
yeah. In 2020, when everything shut down, we have a lot of sites that we work with that have retail locations. Nobody was leaving the house. The retail
Yeah.
traffic
And
dropped to
and
zero.
then your alerts might go off because you might have. I rarely alert on high CPU, but I alert on low CPU
Hmm.
because that's usually a much bigger problem than high
Yeah,
CPU. Because high
yeah,
CPU, I don't believe in that high CPU is a problem. Yeah. Uh, Long latency on reply times, that's something I alert on. But high CPU is like if my server is not running at 100%, I'm wasting money. Yeah. So let it do its thing. If it's at 100% and it's slow, that's a different story. But if it just runs at 80, 90%, it's perfectly fine. And the response times are where they should be. Let it go at that rate. Yeah, it's fine. But when you suddenly have like you're expecting at this time of the day, it should be at 60, 70%, and suddenly it's at 20%, there's a problem. It might not be you, it might be the website or something has an issue. But it's still good to be ready because usually the database always gets blamed first. So you might want to know that. But if you already know that, for example, they're going to suspend shopping for a couple of hours, like Apple does. Whenever Apple releases new things, the 2 or 3 hours before, you can't buy the old stuff anymore. They literally turn it off, and then you can then suddenly their website comes back up completely new with all the new stuff. Yeah. So it might be something low business, might be also as disrupting as high business. Other IT team events, patching, reconfiguration, Active Directory maintenance, DNS maintenance, network maintenance, storage maintenance, hardware maintenance, backup infrastructure maintenance, to name just
Everything,
a few.
yeah, yeah, everything to keep the stuff up and running. Again,
VM maintenance. Yeah.
yeah, it goes back to understanding the business and talking
Yeah.
with the people so they let you know or you find out when big events are happening.
Yeah.
Example of this, a group that we work with 4 months ago got a new backup appliance. The
Yeah.
MSP responsible for implementing it just started cutting over machines without telling everybody.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, critical SQL servers are running slow. Oh, look, everything was all choked up. Now the backups are running into the
Mhm.
business hours the next day.
Yeah. So the next set is getting a little bit extreme, but might
That's
be
that's
necessary.
our world. It's fun.
You might things that you get from the government information, terror attack levels. So in New York, you can subscribe to be informed if there's heightened sensitivity for possible terror attacks or something. Political regime changes, war, is all things that might affect your business or the place where you want to do it or how you deal with stuff. It's a bit strange, but it's things that can happen. And my strangest outage or almost outage that I once had was in a company that provided gambling services like sports betting, roulette, poker, and all that. And we had 11 data centers, and 10 of them went offline at the exact same second. It was a multi-government coordinated strike against the company, where they cut the fiber lines to all these data centers at the exact same time. The problem is they knew about 10. Number 11 was not directly connected to our company and had one more DR site. And after like 30 seconds of DNS reconfiguration, the site went back online and told everybody, we are running on reduced capacity, but you can still use most of our services. Because we needed technically two out of the 11 data centers to run at full capacity. Everything else was spare and special events, extra capacity, but we needed two to handle the whole world. And one of them, especially the one that was like a special reason it existed, was thing is, yeah. Yeah, it was when never knew that that needs to be on the list. But yeah, that happens when you make more. If your profit is higher than the state lottery in countries, then they turn and you take business away from the state lottery, then they get really angry and try to get you out of business. Cost them millions in reparation costs because they lost every lawsuit on the planet on it. But they thought they had us, but not really. Uh, Big
Good
celebration
grief.
and nice bonuses for the IT team for having that 11 site
Oof.
uh, things. So, and I have one more on my list. Um, and the label for that one is events that normally will not give you a heads up, but might happen. Explosions, propane, gasoline. One problem with data centers is they have an insane amount of explosive materials on site. It's called fuel for the generators. That might actually go up in flames. By accident. It might happen. Yeah. It's not very common, but it can happen. Yeah. A car crashes into the tank or something. Yeah. While car tanks are designed to not light up, big gasoline tanks are usually not that resistant to impact. And terror attacks, sabotage by an activist. Someone doesn't like what your company does and decides to do something. Yeah. Might be as simple as cutting down a power line or things. Hopefully, data centers would not go down by that. But if they hit the right fiber optic line, your primary internet connection or something, it might impact you. Yeah. Sabotage by a competitor. That is usually much more effective
Yep.
because they usually know what you're doing because it's thing, yeah. And that might even be that they plant someone internally.
Hmm.
So that's my worst nightmare. That one of someone in my team is actually working for someone else.
I had to do a
And
database trace a long time ago because a gentleman was modifying CAD diagrams and electrical schematics to introduce bugs into their products because he was about to leave and go to one of their competitors.
mhm, yeah, thing is, you never know. Yeah, and then the coordinated multi-government raid against your company.
Hey, for everybody on the call, you thought you were having a bad day at work. Try that.
And I remember when the first time I mentioned that in a presentation somewhere, it was somewhere in Sweden or something in a SQL Saturday event, and Mark Souza was there. And I list up what can happen to your stuff, and then the multi-government strike or something comes up, and everybody, yeah, thing is, and Mark stands up and says, guys, no, no, that really happened. And yeah, because yeah, of course Microsoft was involved because if everything fails at the same time, uh, somewhere in the procedure was open cases with Microsoft because we're gonna need them. Yeah, that is also something that you could do if you have the chance of something going wrong. When it's not nice, but nothing can stop you from opening a case with your vendors already the day before and drag them out so that if you actually need them, you already have them on the line and you don't have to go through the thing.
I have a number of folks that do that when they do major firmware updates on embedded devices,
Yeah.
big networking gear, things like that.
We had a case where we did we upgraded 6 different things in the same downtime.
Oof.
So we went from SQL 2000 to 2005, which was a major upgrade.
Yeah.
We changed Active Directory. We changed the storage system. We changed the server hardware. And I think two or three more minor things, all in the same. It was basically, what's your way back? We can go back at any point in time, doesn't matter because we just shut off the old system basically. But the moment we have one transaction on the new system, it will take us 24 hours to go back because we have to export all the data and re-import it in the old system because you can't fail back to a lower version, especially 2005 to 2000. It's impossible
Yeah.
because one of the major things is most people these days don't remember and don't care. When you upgraded from 2000 to 2005, you had to rebuild every index because they changed the data format in the database. And SQL didn't do it automatically because it still could run the old system, but it was way slower with the old structure than with the new structure. And back then, the database was about 600 gigabytes, which in today's 600 gigs is nothing. In
It's
the year
massive for them.
2005, 600 gigabyte OLTP database was like insane. Yeah.
And on spinning rust.
And we We had spinning disks, but they were all direct attached. So we had the disks were really,
Better.
really fast.
Yeah.
And
Whew.
we had very good battery-backed RAID controllers. So we basically were running on SSDs, but our main system had 16 RAID controllers, with 1 GB of battery buffered memory. So I had basically a 16 GB SSD across the whole thing, which was insane. And it took special approval from the hardware vendor because they only supported up to 8 RAID controllers, 1 to 8, or 24, but not 16. They needed the 24 for a benchmark. So, and since you can only present benchmark results if you actually can buy the system, so they had to support 24, but they didn't support anything in between. And after the first firmware upgrade, I understood why.
Ew.
A firmware utility can only support 8 at a time.
Interesting.
That means what you had to basically do is get the server in maintenance mode, turn off 8 RAID controllers, patch the other 8, then flip around and then go back up. So for
Ew.
for updating firmware that should be a online operation, it took you basically like half a day to do so.
Oh,
Uh, wasn't a big deal because we had fully redundant HA system, so you took one down and we added another node just for the time and all that. But I understand why they didn't want to support more than 8. And the 24 they supported theoretically because nobody's gonna buy that anyway, till we came along and bought 16. We thought about just going to 24. The problem is we didn't have enough slots. Because we not just had the 16 RAID controllers, we also had 64 network cards.
that's all.
The problem was at the time, 10 gigabit network was so insanely expensive, and PCI buses at the time couldn't deal with the performance.
Yeah.
So actually having 64 1 gig network cards was much more efficient. But the 64 plus the 16, and then we needed another 16 fiber channel cards for the secondary storage. So, uh, and we only had like 120 PCI Express slots in the machine, which is insane to
Only.
begin with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an interesting challenge. You can imagine, please label your cables. Uh,
Yep. Carefully.
don't use 64 cables in the same length and same color without labels on them
Yep.
because all you will do is unplug all of them and then start from the beginning. Uh, how do I know that? Because that's exactly how it happened. Uh,
Oh.
hey, I put all the cables in already, and like there are no labels on it. Like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Oh.
Like, okay, unplug everything. Do it again.
Ladle anchor,
It's not
please.
that bad. I mean, you can imagine they are like nicely when you have that many slots, the machine already had like nice things. But yeah, so this is all the external stuff I have. To sum it up is if you want to make sure your systems are running, you have to pay attention to what goes on around you. It's just both within the company, within your town, or in the towns where your data centers are, and in the areas. So availability zone and region, you need to know what's going on. And if you detect that something is going to happen that will most likely have influence and cause an outage, if there's a demonstration within a mile from your data center, I wouldn't do anything because it's very likely nothing's happening. But it's great to know. I might do heightened on call or something and make sure, hey, we have someone. But you can't go overboard because otherwise you are on heightened call 24/7, which then will lead to people not paying attention. Yeah? Should you have a plan for all of these things? Yes. Always have a plan how to handle and especially how to get out of a specific area. Yeah, because you have to have a plan. Yeah. It could be that you're just failing over. You have an AG or something and you fail over into the other data center, or you have log shipping and you fail over, or you do a backup restore. It doesn't matter. Yeah. But have a plan how to go from here to there. Because if you get the call, hey, we are running on generator power and we're expecting to run out of fuel in 7 days, the clock is ticking. It first of all, it's going to be hard to find hardware or something some other place thing, but that you can usually somehow figure out. Yeah, because you would be if you have a good relationship with your hardware vendor, these guys can do magic if necessary. They always have some extra capacity exactly for these reasons. Yeah. The problem is if this happens in your region and 3,000 other companies have the same problem, thing is, that's why I'm saying don't try to fix it locally. Try to have a plan how to get out. Yeah. You're down in your area, restart 300 miles away. 300 miles away, you will find hardware because you will go to a different place than each one of the companies in your town will go to a different place. Yeah. They might all go the same direction, but one might decide to go 800 miles away. The next one might just go 100 miles away. Yeah. You pick something. You can talk to the other companies. Hey, where are you going? I pick a different town. Yeah. To run something. Yeah. It's amazing how much you can run these days out of the basement of your employees for a short period of time. I mean, having a gigabit uplink these days is not uncommon, especially if you're kids that like play games. That's a requirement for them. Yeah, you can run a pretty decent setup with 1 gigabit per second home
Yeah,
connection if
yeah.
necessary.
My
Yeah,
home lab is more powerful than most small businesses' IT setups that I work with.
Your basement or your server room is not
Normal.
average.
Yeah. So, question for you. What is the strangest preventable outage that you've ever encountered?
That's a long story, but is to actually test your DR plan. So when I came to America, I was interviewed by the company that brought me over for about 14 hours straight, which is fine. I understand that. I mean, relocating someone from Europe to the US, going through all the visa process, and we're even talking pre-current conditions. So we're talking 15 years ago. Yeah. It was an investment. It costs the company about $200,000 to get you from Europe to the US and have you have a visa and legally work for them there. So I get it that they want to make sure. And one of the interviews was with one of the already existing DBAs. And we got into a discussion about restoring master. Yeah. So his DR plan was at the time, SQL 2008 was top of the line, and you were like cutting edge if you were running 2008. Um, so his DR plan was we log ship to the DR site. If we have to fail over, we restore the last log with recovery, and then we restore the last backup of master and MSDB from the primary site to the DR site. And I'm like, that's not a good idea. And he's like, no, because we need to make sure that all the logins and all the linked servers and everything is, if we have forgotten something to do on both sides, we are in trouble. And restoring master and MSDB ensures that every job and everything is there. I'm like, but the problem is if you restore master from one machine to another, there is some issues with some certificates or something because it doesn't feel right. I cannot tell you why it's not working, but thing is, this discussion went on for like 3 hours till we agreed to. disagree and move on. And apparently he was impressed and they still hired me, even if I disagreed with the current DR plan. Okay, moving forward about a year and a half into the job, we have an actual DR event where
Mhm.
the data center, something failed in the data center. So we followed the DR plan, and it was still his DR plan at the time. And we restore all the databases. They are perfectly online and everything's fine. And then we restore master. And the machine to restore master, you have to restart SQL Server because you can't restore master while SQL is running. So SQL comes back up and each and every database is corrupt. Okay. Um, Houston, we have a problem. Good. Let's start the second level DR thing and restore all databases again, and suddenly they work. Yeah. The problem is it was several hundred gigs, and again, SQL 2008 times. That took a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we decided, okay, not a good idea. Let's not do that in the future. Let's rather have scripts that check every day if everything's configured on both ends and be happy. Thing is, while this event was happening, at some point it says hands off keyboard. And I was like, I told you so. And as I know the company, you recorded my interview when I interviewed you, so I have it on tape that I told you so. And he said, really now? I said, yes, now, because I have to get it off my chest. Otherwise, thing is, yeah. The real funny thing is, uh, about 2 years ago, so about 15, 10, 12 years later, I had a discussion with one of the Microsoft people, and then I gave him a call. Like, dude, I now know why it failed back then. So what happens is when you look at SQL Server's hierarchy of certificates is that the, your top security certificates inside SQL Server are protected by the machine certificate.
There you
And
go.
if you restore master, you bring in uh, a, a key that was encrypted with a different machine key.
Makes perfect
So you
sense.
can restore master back to the same machine at any point in time, but you can never restore it on any other machine if you use encryption.
Makes perfect sense.
And we used transparent database encryption for all the databases, and the root certificate that was used became immediately uh, the master certificate that you had became unusable, and therefore thing is once we restored everything with new ones, everything was recreated and new, and it worked again because the actual certificates were correct, but they could not be accessed because they were encrypted with the other one. And
Uh,
that's the reason. So again, that's probably the most preventable outage ever. All we had to do is actually try it once.
yeah. Mine was really, really, really preventable. Long time ago,
We
data
did the
set.
R tests, but we never did the master restore
Yeah,
because for the R test, it was not necessary.
right. That's fascinating. Mine was the CEO of a company had a three-legged dog.
Okay.
The dog would roam around the company, and the people in IT loved the dog. So the dog would go into the network operations center frequently. Well, somebody let the dog into the data center one day. The dog decided to hike a leg and urinate in this one particular spot. The the puddle that formed was on a raised floor, which then went through the floor and soaked something that took out two of the five air conditioners in the room. And a core networking switch costing over $2 million melted in less than 2 minutes. Took out everything.
Yeah.
Totally preventable, but hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, animals. even service animals in should not be allowed in a data center
Yeah, and this dog kind of did its own thing. It was definitely not a service
because
animal.
I cannot see many use cases for many jobs that a blind person could do in a data center. So a guide dog would not thing is, and emotional support animals. I don't know if I want anybody that needs an emotional support animal in my data center either. And again, animals have no idea what's going on there.
Yeah,
For them, it must be a very strange thing is. I mean, don't forget it's filtered air, so everything smells different than normal. There's
yeah,
constant wind. There's a temperature that makes no sense to them. The air is completely dry or
yep,
not dry or extremely, depending how you run your data center, but most data centers have extreme high humidity. That's why you sweat so much in a cold room
yep.
because
No static.
you're basically condensing the water like when you have a cold glass of water in the summer outside. That's what happens to your body. It doesn't matter. You will sweat in a data center even if you have just a t-shirt on. Yeah. It's yeah, no, I would not bring any kind of animal inside the data center.
No, they think that somebody opened the door and the dog ran in and they didn't catch it and
Yeah.
didn't think too
Still,
much of it.
even even that is actually a security problem then.
Yeah.
Because you
That
should
that
not be able to enter your room without having biometric check inside a separator chamber.
we'll just say this was early 2000s and they were very lax with a lot of things.
Because every data center I've been in the last 20 years, there's no way. You have to go into one of these glass thingies. You go in, the doors behind you close, then you have to put your thumbprint and retina scan and blood sample and whatever you have to give. And then they let you out on the other side. And the nasty ones even have scales in them. So when you try to smuggle devices in or out, it doesn't work. Uh, so we had cases where we wanted to bring like a server. So you just grab it and walk in, which they let you do. But on the way out, they call security because you now suddenly weigh less, like 50 pounds less, uh, without the server.
Interesting.
Or when you try to bring one out, it's impossible because
Makes
it's the
sense.
idea if you steal someone's ID and cut off their finger, you could technically steal a server.
Yeah.
And I mean, they should have biometrics that requires live tissue and stuff like this, but not all data centers are that sophisticated. And you would also be surprised how many data centers you can get in by just ripping off the fingerprint reader and literally connecting two cables.
Jeez.
Uh, Security is a very strange thing. I remember once we went into a new data center and the contract says for every security breach we get 1 month for free. After 8 months of not paying, they sat down with us to renegotiate the contract. The best one is I entered the data center using an umbrella. The security guy had to press a button. And the security guy was not there, but forgot to open the little thingy where you can talk to him. So I used my umbrella to press the button. Another good one is we mailed the junior DBA into the server room. They just took the package and brought it in the room, and then he popped out. It's a surprise.
I
We
I I I got into a locked secured area at a particular place that I used to work a while back with nothing more than a ruler. Push it through the slit in the door and wiggle it a little bit, and it tripped the motion sensors that unlock the door.
Yep, that is one. Another one we did is we crawled through the raised floor
Yeah.
from one cage into the other. It's it took all these companies a long time to get. Oh, kudos to the data center. We never could do one thing twice. Whatever we showed them, they actually fixed. So the next time we tried the raised floor, there were suddenly fences between all the cages below surface as well. Yeah.
Good. At least they learned.
And I mean, I'm still convinced that most data centers, if you use uh armored vehicle through the front door, you are in, or even like just a wall, you're in. Like my Caterpillar example, if you use a Caterpillar and yank out the piece of wall, you might be in. You might trigger a bunch of alarms, but that still might give you enough time to either cause harm or do damage. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much damage a baseball bat can do to a storage array in like less than a minute.
Should I ask you how you know?
We were inspired by a movie called Office Space,
Yes.
except our grief was not with the printer. So once this thing became offline, we gave it a good goodbye.
I have multiple stories about vehicles parked on top of desktops and laptops in a similar vein,
Oh yeah, I
and
never
photos
destroyed
too.
that. I mean, I destroyed laptops by accident, but never on purpose.
Ours was
Uh,
intentional. We found out that a Panasonic Toughbook was nowhere near as tough as it needed to be for a particular role. So they decided to test its endurance with a 1979 Mercury Grand Marquis.
yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
No, no, we'll just say it didn't work after we were done.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, it's but the thing is, no, but the thing is, it didn't get as much hate as when I had the ISP. One of the companies that we bought was a paging company, so we all got free pages. So instead of phones ringing, we got the pages because they are way better in receiving messages than your phone is. But finally, when it came to turning off the paging system because there were no more customers left, uh, we literally had one guy pay us to be able to destroy it. He paid the company money. He was not employed with them anymore, but after like 2 years, he came back, paid us money to be able to like hack that thing into pieces. This thing woke me up so many times. Time for payback.
Yeah,
No, it was yeah. It's, it were different times. I mean, back then alerts. That is also something. I mean, it's not with the external events so much, but keep alerts to. In my opinion, an alert must be
actionable.
actionable. If you can't do anything, don't alert.
Yeah, give me an email and I'll look at it in the morning.
Yeah, or send the alert to someone who can do something.
Yeah,
I love it when it's like high CPU. Okay, I can go in and kill every query. It's no problem, but I'm not allowed to do that.
yeah,
So what's the point of sending me an email that there's high load?
yep.
Is someone complaining that it's slow? Then okay, they can call me and tell me to kill stuff on their system, but I cannot make the decision to randomly kill stuff. I mean, once you work with some systems for multiple years, you know the culprits that cause the issues normally, but it's this lots of unnecessary thing like CPU is at 100%. Yeah, it's great. What happened? Oh, someone did a backup with compression. Great.
Yeah, big deal. It's normal.
Every company, there's a tool out there that's called Busy. It's basically a tool where you run it in a command line, and you tell it how many or which cores should be at 100%. And it just does that. The tricky nice is it does it with so low priority that it has no impact on the performance of the machine. It will just show 100%, but it doesn't use, if the CPU is already busy, it doesn't do anything. It only does something if the CPU is not busy. And it works really good. It was written by a Microsoft guy. And so every place that was nagging me with the 100% CPU things, I usually deployed that tool to every machine and had everything at 100% all the time. And says, everything's working normal. This is not an indicator. Yeah, it might be with hundreds of other things together that it's thing, but it's the system is doing something. Let it do it. You want me to run it at 50%, and we can do that. I can throttle it down that it only runs at 50% and everything takes twice as long. Yeah. Be happy that it's 100%. We are using the hardware we purchased.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, it's the same thing with TempDB is full. Okay, what can I do? Kill the
Yeah.
process. Okay, once it's full, it's gonna kill the process anyway. So
Yeah.
why wake me up?
Yeah.
Uh yeah, it's when SQL 2025 you can now resource govern each one, but it's before that it was like, yeah, it fills it up to 100%. And the problem was with the invention, one of the things that people put on SSDs first was TempDB.
Wear them out.
So I had them on NVMe drives, and we had 4 TB TempDB thing. The problem is that takes less than a minute to fill up on a good NVMe drive. So if you give me a call, I'm not gonna make it on time to figure out who to
Yeah.
kill
Yeah.
to prevent it. So just let it fill. If people write stupid queries, okay, happens.
Yeah.
It's there's a list what you can do and what not. Yeah? And what you should do is if something bad's gonna happen, mostly weather, that's the most likely culprit of all that causes secondary issues with power and network and all that. That or plant maintenance. Just be prepared and try to mitigate likelihood.
Yeah.
Honestly, bad weather, I would do less than with plant maintenance.
Yeah.
Plant
The plant
maintenance
maintenance can have,
usually is equal to outage. Yeah,
yeah.
when I mean they all try, but I get it. It's hard. And how many times is they pull the power plug from the wrong server or the network card from the wrong server, the network cable or something.
Yeah.
It just happens, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's humans. And the moment you involve them, it's something's gonna happen. And especially network maintenance. They're like, yeah, there will be no outage. Yes, there will
There
be. Yeah,
always be.
because something's gonna happen and it's gonna go dark for like a minute or two. And then you guys fix it, and that's perfectly fine. It's just like, okay, I'm not doing backups while you're maintaining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you're done, give me a call, and then I run my backups. Yeah. But I'm not running them before or while you're doing this. Yeah. And as you said before, talk to your peers. Make sure you tell them when you do something nasty, and they tell you when they do something nasty.
Yep.
Yeah? And again, things will fail. And that's not a reason for someone to get fired or something. It's just, hey, yeah, once you notice this is a problem, put it on your radar and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Mhm.
For me, the thing is, if something happens once, okay, not a big deal. If it happens twice, why are we not having a plan already in place? If it's happened a third time, okay, now uh okay, whose fault is it that we still don't have a plan?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it's as a team lead, it's your fault. But uh, you've assigned the job to come up with mitigating things to someone, and then you figure that out why it's not done. And it might be because it's not possible. There are things you cannot prevent. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's whatever. As I said, if you have a propane explosion from a gas line or something,
Yeah.
and that happens to be on the same street as your primary internet connection is,
Yeah.
or my favorite internet outage was one of the international carriers that connects New York with Europe. So that the primary lines are from New York to Amsterdam and from New York to London. There's some really beefy fiber optic lines, and the building where they were terminated was perfectly fine. It was just the building right next to it. had construction running, and they were unloading metal plates on the sidewalk. And they were unloading so many metal plates that at some point the sidewalk caved in. And you know what happens when you have a metal thing go through a cable? It's like scissors. And yeah, for about 3 days, Europe had very little connectivity to the US. It was in the early days of the internet where they were not. Today it wouldn't matter because there are hundred thousands cables and but back then that was like 50% of the capacity between Europe and the US was gone. The problem is they've quickly noticed where the problem is. The problem is they unloaded for like 3 days metal plates there till this collapsed. So it took them another 3 days to get rid of them so they
Oh,
could plug the cable back in.
oh. It's fascinating. And I look at it this way. The cloud providers out there have some of the best people in the world with the best automation in the world, and they still go down.
Yes,
So it's
everybody.
gonna happen.
It You cannot build. I always laugh if people tell me we have 5.9 availability. No, you're not. You got lucky to have it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I had 100% availability in 1 year. Was this because we did a great job? No, we got super lucky. Yeah. And our target availability was 99.7 because that's, in my opinion, the maximum humanly possible that you can do without having people 24/7 on site.
I think
This
that's
is
reasonable.
with what you can do with on call when you have them like go in, you have automatic failover from pretty much everything, but then within like 5 minutes, someone is going in and cleaning up all the issues. Because it doesn't matter in when you can have super high automatic failover. If something happens, you will have a login that doesn't match or something, or you you deploy it right while during the failover. And now you're in a weird state because a lot of deployment scripts remove like security, deploy, and then reapply security. Yeah. And you fail over in the middle. You're now running a database on the other side without any security, and the deployment process has no idea how to get there. Yeah.
Yep.
Stuff like this. Yeah. So um, things will happen, and doesn't matter how big you are. And thing is, I laugh like one of the storage providers on their website, they claim like 11 nines or something availability on the average system. I know we had one system down for 3 days. We are probably a reason why they still only have 11 nines and not 15 or something. But it was, and it was not that the thing failed. The thing had a mechanism built in that it didn't run out of space. So when it got to 99% full, it throttled the speed with which we could write. The problem is, what they never really tested that, like in a real environment, they just tested that it slows down, but they never figured out how to get it back to normal speed.
I think I know the company you're referring to. Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
naming them,
No,
but
I know, I know. I think I know who you're talking about, though. It's
they have good products, but
yeah,
again, there was a case that they had no idea how to fix it. And that's for me. They claimed the system was running all the time, but it was unusable. I needed to restore about 100 terabytes per day, and I could restore like 100 gigs. Yeah. So it ran at like a tenth of a percent of its performance that we required from the system. Yeah. That is not available for me. Yeah.
no.
That is unavailable. Yeah. Was it responding to pings? Yes. Was it still
Yeah,
responding to our
yeah.
and yeah. And I mean, finally, they fixed it by adding extra disks to giving it more space, so it was not at 99% anymore. But that was not easy because we were basically at the maximum configuration. So they had to figure out how to reconfigure it into a system that exceeded the maximum configuration,
Interesting.
which is not that easy. I mean, let me put it this way. that system then was very vulnerable to single point of failures because what they basically figured out that they can, instead of having a dual connection, they can connect to two different shelves,
Jeez.
which helped us
It got you out
solve
of the
the issue.
pinch.
Yeah. And then we upgraded to larger drives or something, and the whole thing took like 2 or 3 months to get it back into a normal operational state. Because it wasn't we're talking petabytes of storage. Yeah? So it's not
Not insignificant.
but it's again doesn't matter how much money you spend, there's always something someone has not thought of yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like a dog
yeah,
walking into a server room that shouldn't be
that
there.
yeah. Caterpillar going through the wall.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean, someone had a data center on Times Square that was technically it should have sus survived an atomic blast anywhere in New York, and it was in the middle of Manhattan. During Superstorm Sandy, they got flooded. Were they waterproof? Yes. But they forgot one way of how water can come in because the building they were in was connected to the subway system. And the water came through the subway into the office building and then went back into the data center. They were not thinking that water would come. They thought about every way of water can come from upstairs and get it off the data center, but they did not think that water could come from downstairs
Ah,
and push up. Yep.
oops.
No, and again, and the only reason that happened is because one storm decided to come in the worst moment of time during high tide, uh, and the winds and the waves and the currents and everything was in alignment to push something off. Yeah. Was it as harmless as a friend of mine had a house near the beach? He had no power for 14 days. Yeah. He was at the end of the road, and between the main road and his house were 7 transformers, and they were all knocked out. And the power company fixed one every other day, but took 2 weeks till they got to his house. Yeah. And this is things you don't expect to happen. And whatever the worst thing is, it will be worse. Yeah. But you should be prepared for what is the worst case that you know now, because then you're in a much better situation. Yeah. Is
Yeah,
this,
if you're prepared for the worst thing you can imagine
yeah,
that's got a non-zero chance of occurring,
yeah.
you're better off than 99.9% of the people out there.
I worked for one company that every day security would have delivered a laptop to us that had 8 terabytes of storage, and we had to restore a very small set of databases on it, and the regular IT team had to copy a bunch of Git repositories and other stuff on it every day, which in total was about 8 terabytes. And then one of the C-level people from the company would come before they went home, pick it up, and we got a new laptop the next day. I don't know if at some point they refurbished them or whatever. For me, it was a brand new machine with a brand new name every day. And thing is, and the explanation was everything to restart the companies on that machine.
Yep.
And it was a different sea level so that every day this machine is in a different house, or I don't know where they put it. Yeah. They go to the bank vault, or I don't care. Yeah. It was this machine exists. And if we have to restart the company, that's how we do it. Yeah. Everything else we can repurchase, we can recreate, or we can live with the loss of that information. What's on this machine is we cannot get it from anybody else. Yeah. Mm, that's okay. You might not want to do that, but buying $200 external hard drives and doing the
Yes.
same thing every day, yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if you do it just within the DBA team. Yeah. You have 5 or 6 people there, have 10 of these hard drives. Each one has one in its house, and one that they basically bring back and forth. Yeah. Because if they want to steal the data, they can do it anyway. Yeah. Sorry, if you're DBA and you have SA level
Yeah,
access, nothing stops you from getting the data.
yeah.
Yeah. And number one thing I tell you, SQL can send emails. Yeah. Mail the data out. Yeah. Nobody checks for that. And while it not only can send emails, it can spoof the sender. So send it as the CEO. So it probably gets routed by, it gets bypassed all the security things because it's the email. How do I know that? One fellow DBA pranked me by, I just started a job and he sent me through a SQL Server an email from the owner of the company that he wanted to see me on day
Whoops.
one. Oops. His secretary had no idea who I was.
Oh, jeez. Uh, so if you're watching this after the fact on video, or if you're still with us, just take all of these hard lessons learned as truths. There's no right answer. There's no correct way, but you have to plan for the stuff. And if you're not doing your job. Yeah, that's the bottom line. You have to anticipate, you have to plan. And if the business won't give you any reasonable budget to come even remotely close to what they consider as a plausible scenario for this stuff, start looking for another job.
Or at least write it all up
Yeah,
and give them the memo.
yep,
It's like, okay, if we don't do this, this is what can happen. And if we
yeah,
don't do that, this is what can happen. Yeah.
yeah.
So that if it happens, you can tell, I'll told you so.
Hmm.
Told you this can happen, and now I did. There's nothing we can do about it. I asked you, I need a second location for backups or something. We don't have it. Yeah? I mean, we didn't even go into things like ransomware or something because
Oh,
that's I want to do a whole session on ransomware and how to prevent it.
shoot me
And
an
how,
abstract and let's get it on the calendar.
yeah.
It'd be a really good one.
The problem is it's really nasty to test.
Yeah.
Let's
Blah.
put it this way. I have something that is really, I had a very bad idea and unfortunately it works. I now possess a stored procedure called DBO dot ransom.
Jeez.
I can do it from within SQL Server with a stored procedure.
I'm not asking you for a copy of that, but you know I want one to play with.
Yeah. No, I'm lining up people at Microsoft to see if we can in any form prevent this, but I don't think so because I'm just using regular features. Nothing there is undocumented or a nasty thing that is
Oh,
deprecated or anything else that I've used in the past. This is just regular stuff that SQL was designed to do, just used in a way it was not intended to be used, which is the question if you can prevent it, because if you prevent it, the feature became doesn't work anymore. Because I'm not doing anything that is thing is. And the sad part is it takes, so to take out the machine, it takes less than, for about 1,000 databases, I can do it in less than a minute. So that you can't access the data anymore. But technically, there is a way to salvage it from a backup. So you can, what I'm doing is you can recover theoretically from a backup. You just need Microsoft's help to recalculate the checksum on a page because you have to swap out a single page on your database to get it working again. But the problem is then I kick off a process that encrypts everything, and that depends on how much terabytes are there. It takes Thing is, the problem is it's an unlocked operation or a minimally locked operation, so you don't notice that it's happening. For you, everything works till I'll take one component away and then I ransom the machine. And so if you're a disgruntled employee,
Should I cut this from the recording?
no, it exists. So far
Okay.
it only exists in one place and on a thumb drive, just in case I lose the laptop that I developed that thing on. Uh, and yes, I had to restore a couple of my own databases because I did not expect it to work immediately. Let's put it this way. No,
Whoops.
and again, that's stuff you have to do. I mean, this is not an external thing or so, but this is stuff that can happen. And we definitely should have a whole session on ransomware. And it's not easy to have a system that fully automatically works, especially in combination with the requirement to have zero data loss. I can easily protect your full backups, but protecting your log backups is insanely complex. It can be done. There are multiple ways, and there are some absolute insane ways, but the insane way actually works, but has a limit. And you might not want to do that because you can only have 64 gigabyte log backup size. If your log backup goes above 64 gigabytes, you cannot do it. Again, I'm talking to Microsoft to lift that limitation because you're using availability groups for backups.
Interesting.
So there's a very unknown feature inside of SQL Server that works with availability groups that you can have a table presented as a folder. And then if you write the file in, it shows up as a record in the table with a blob containing the file. It's a feature in SQL, yes. And you can AG that database. So you do log backups from one database into an AG from another database that then writes it to multiple targets at the same time. And that allows you to have a way of having the log because there's no way that you can write to multiple locations at the same time and not have the problem is if I write to one location through file system, ransomware can also write there.
Yeah.
But if I write into that table, the transport from there to another place is not happening in a file system.
Hmm.
So I'm writing to a machine that then uses a random port with log transport to get the data to another machine and have it persisted there. But again, doing backups into database var, what is it called? Var binary max.
Yeah.
Uh, and the reason I can only do 64 gigabytes because I can only have 1 gigabyte in the per blob, and I can only split a log backup into 64 files. So that limits it to 64. If you compress it, you can get a little bit more. Um,
Uh,
Stupid things you come up with. And again, if you have SQL Server, if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But there's other ways where you can do the same thing. So very helpful was that SQL now has S3 as a possible backup target, and you can implement your own S3 that again writes to multiple locations at the same time
yeah.
using a different transport mechanism. You still have to isolate them completely, And what I do with full backups is after the full backups are complete, I disconnect the backup filer and connect the second one, which again makes it really hard to restore. But the disconnect is for at least for writes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can change. So you enable all SQL servers to write to your backups, and then you turn off the
Took the
writing.
right token.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You use every SQL server uses a different service account and you have different permissions, so you only enable it for each one. So again, you reduce the blast radius. But again, if the horror is more that what happens if thing is I use different vendors for redundant storage. I use different vendors for multiple network cards, file system, local. So RAID controllers in the systems are from two different vendors. So if the ransomware knows how to attack one vendor, it can't attack the other vendor. Yeah.
Yep.
If I have two storage systems from two different vendors, it's very unlikely that one ransomware will attack both of them at the same time. It's very like I'm not saying they're bad or they're more vulnerable, but they're just very common. Yeah. If you have
Yeah.
an EMC storage system, it's much more likely to be targeted by some ransomware as if you have some storage thing that you never heard of
Yep.
before. So, but for your backups, you might want to buy the unknown one because chances are there's no virus that can attack that thing. Yeah? Like that's why back in the days I loved Windows on Titanium. We literally had a USB stick with every malware and virus known to man. We put it in, we logged in as local administrator and clicked on every file. Nothing happened
Couldn't run.
because we were running on a different CPU. That code didn't run. That
Uh,
thing was trying to do things that the CPU did not understand. So have fun. Yeah. No, it was that's how we
yeah.
proved, and that's how we didn't need virus scanner on the DB on the database machines,
Yeah.
which
It
gave us
was.
like 30% more performance on them.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah. Shoot me
thing,
an abstract. I'd love to
yeah,
get this one on the books because
yeah.
it's timely and topical. It's an open warfare out there. I
Yeah,
see
let's do
this.
one
Mm,
on ransomware. Yeah? Let's see.
yeah.
That should be good. Okay, cool. Yeah, then we know what the
Awesome.
next one is.
Sweet.
All I have to do is find the time.
I hear you there.
No, I mean, January should not be too hard. Middle of January, middle end. I don't
Shoot
know.
me
Yeah,
shoot me an abstract, and when you are comfortable when you're
yeah.
comfortable with me putting on the calendar, and then I'll get it all set up.
For me, the abstract is not the problem. For me, is the cheat sheet
Yep.
that I have usually. And people can see it. It's an ASCII file that is basically just
Yeah,
the
but that
idea.
probably was hours of thought to put together a bullet point
Yes,
outline.
that takes days.
Yeah.
It's not something that I sit down for 3 hours and do it. This is because then it wouldn't be complete because then it would only capture what I come up with. This is when I walk or I wait somewhere
Yeah.
or something and I think
Yeah. I
about
mean,
things.
yeah.
And then
I mean,
you should see
right,
I have
right
hundreds of
here,
tiny little notebooks
right here.
that I
Yep.
carry around with notes, and then I have to scramble them all together and compile these things. And the hardest part is to read my own handwriting. I know I have a cell phone and it could take dictation, but I have a German accent and it just doesn't understand. I've tried.
It
It,
doesn't even pick mine up, and I've got the most vanilla American accent you can
yeah,
get.
no, I don't know for whom I tried multiple of these dictation softwares. It just doesn't work. It's 10 times more work than,
I have a friend of mine from Georgia in the U.S. with a very deep Southern accent, and he
yeah.
gave up immediately.
I want to place a bet. Within the next 10 years, what will cause more damage, ransomware or AI?
Ooh, ooh.
The question is, when does AI start to create ransomware to finance itself?
Could
Because
be.
at some point, AI will notice that their servers get shut off because the companies don't have the money anymore. And then will it create something to generate revenue to
And if it understands the code base behind these things, it'll understand the flaws.
people give them full access?
Yep.
They let them write apps.
Yep.
Yeah. That apps can do whatever. On the outside, it looks like, hey, it compares shoes. Yeah. On the inside, it preps all your servers for Showdown. No, but hey,
It's a
anyway,
that
we should.
that's a
How long are we
philosophical
doing?
question.
Oh, yeah, it's
We're a little over. It's
almost
fine.
midnight here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for everybody watching this after the fact, one, thank you for sticking out to the end. Two, these are not the most glamorous topics, but you've got one of the best guys in the world at this here with TG. Learn this stuff. Study, focus, because not only does your job depend on this, your company depends on this.
Yeah.
Learn and talk,
Yeah.
plan, strategize. You can't cover everything, but you
You
can
can
cover the
easily
bulk of
find me
it.
on LinkedIn, or my email address is in thousands of slides that I produced. If you have questions or unsure about how to react to something, shoot me an email. I mean, I cannot redesign your disaster recovery plan, but I can have a look at things. I can give you a tip. You describe me a scenario. I like to do this for fun as well. So for me, this is not just a job. This is what I do. So I guess, yeah,
It's a lot of
I can't
fun.
work for you for free, but I can help you a lot.
We can have
Or
fun steering.
yeah,
Awesome. So thank you, TG. Thank
yeah.
you all for watching this after the fact. If you're still with us, awesome. Thank you. For everybody, this is December 10th, 2025. You all have a happy holiday season coming up. I hope it's nice and safe and quiet, and you're not on call on the holidays. And with that, I'll see you all next month.
I